Hi friends, today we're talking about scheduling. It's something that everyone tries to get right. That's because scheduling determines how we use our most valuable resource in this world, our time, as Dr. Jordan Peterson would usually say.
That's where something like a schedule can be unbelievably useful. Google Calendar. It's like, make a damn schedule and stick to it.
Especially if you're a student, you will often hear the phrase where we say, I wish I could do this, but I just don't have the time for it right now. When what they really mean is that it's not a priority right now. I used to be exactly like this until I explored a 4-step system that I use to unlock my schedule and ultimately my time.
Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Felix. I'm a first-year graduate entry medical student at the University of Warwick. And on this channel, we explore the principles to help us live more intentional lives. Today, we're talking about time management, especially at university, and how I use a 4-step system and one rule to ensure that I'm doing exactly the right thing at exactly the right time in the most effective way possible. So in one of our recent podcast episodes, we were discussing how we can balance being spontaneous while also having a plan for the future and having a set schedule so that you can basically get things done. And we're trying to develop a system that allowed us to do both sort of planning for the long term, but also kind of being a slightly free and spontaneous in the short term. So I'm going to split this video into 3 sections. The first will explain the 8-hour rule. The second part will explain the 4-step system, which involves the pilot, the plane, the engineer, and the parachute. And finally, I'll summarize why I think this is really important in managing your schedule and ultimately your time. The first rule is called the 8-hour rule. I call this the one division to rule the day. In any given day, we have 24 hours. If you divide that by 3, you get these neat 8-hour segments. And what I try and do is I split each segment into deep work, deep play, and deep rest. The word deep is really important because that signifies that whenever I'm trying to do one of these 3 segments, I try and avoid all distractions from any other segment. So I'm focusing just on the one task that I've set myself for that day. So my work will basically involve me studying for medicine, so doing all my anatomy, my clinical skills, and also my lectures. That takes up 8 hours of my time pretty much. If you've read the book Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, we all know how important sleep is. So on a daily basis, I spend 8-ish hours trying to sleep and ensure I get adequate rest. Lastly, my play will involve anything other than sleeping or working. So things like journaling, meditating, or even singing or reading, and of course, a lot of time cooking. Just kidding. Cooking is for unproductive people. We have here, sponsor me. Oh, and also I spent some time primarily wondering why you haven't subscribed yet. The second rule is based around a 4-step system that was adapted from a book called The E-Myth Revisited, and we made our additions to kind of adapt it for our own lives in the podcast. This involves the pilot, the plane, the engineer, and the parachute. That's quite wordy, so I'm going to call it the 3PE model. The analogy goes like this. If you think of the components needed to fly a plane, the plane spends most of its time flying, getting to where it needs to go, actually being in the air and flying to places. Some of the time will be spent by the pilot deciding what direction to go in, whether to use autopilot or not, and controlling where the plane is going. Some of the time will be spent with engineers so that they can make the plane as effective as possible, so wherever it's going, it's doing it in the most efficient manner. And lastly, we added on something called the parachute, which is supposed to represent a safety net or a backup plan should something wrong happen with the plane. A similar model can be proposed for life where you spend most of your time executing on the ideas that you've set out for yourself, but you compartmentalize the rest of your time within that deep play 8-hour period so that you ensure whatever you're doing it in the most effective way possible and you're tracking it as you go along. So my piloting system basically involves me breaking down different areas of my life into projects and then into action items, and I'll use Notion as like my to-do list, and then I will transfer them onto Google Calendar on a weekly basis, so I've time blocked exactly when I'm going to do these action items. I think the key to building a really good schedule is to center it around things that you really do want to do rather than just kind of obligated to do. And a lot of this is actually from something called the Pillars, Pipelines and Vault system by August Bradley on YouTube. He has an absolutely amazing Notion system, and it's the most integrative system I've seen on Notion ever. So go check that out if you're interested. And let me know in the comments below if you want me to make any videos on how I manage my Notion as like a life operating system. Then we have the plane. The plane is really simple. It's just about getting things done. So you've decided what direction you want to go in with the pilot, and then the plane is what you should be spending most of your time with, just doing the items that you've set yourself. I think the key here is to ensure that you're very specific with what you want to do with your allotted time, so not being very ambiguous and actually having the specific thing you're going to achieve and the specific time that you've allotted for it. Because then Parkinson's law, which states that work will expand to fill the time that is available to do it in, will take over, and you'll set deadlines for yourself, which is way better than you just going, okay, I'm going to probably do that and it'll probably take like 2 hours. So that will help you become much more efficient. Now that you've decided what you want to do and when you're going to do it, now you can decide what the most effective way is to achieve the specific goal. And this is where the all-important engineer comes into play. The engineer helps you align with your long-term goals and values, and my engineering happens in 2 ways. I have a daily journaling system which I review on a weekly basis, and in this journal I ask questions like, okay, how efficient was I today? How many things did I get done? And this allows me to track my progress over time, and it ensures that my life is pretty much kept on track and everything is being done in the most effective way possible. So us humans are very, very bad at estimating how long things are going to take versus how long they're actually going to take. This is actually called the planning fallacy, which was discussed by a Nobel-winning psychologist called Daniel Kahneman in his book Thinking Fast and Slow. But that's for another video. The parachute are essentially little blocked out bits of time which have nothing at all scheduled in them. So the point of this is that should something unexpected happen that you kind of want to pursue immediately, so for example, if Yath Prem or Edvard Benson suddenly decides to upload a video and you have to watch it, then you can do that because you know you have some safety netted time later on in the week where you can catch up on whatever work that you've just skipped to take this sort of spontaneous decision. And that kind of frees up your schedule without it being too rigid. So leaving a few hours spare and unscheduled means that you can do those spontaneous things without actually falling behind on your schedule and kind of being guilty about the things that you've skipped. To summarize, use the 8-hour rule to figure out how your day can be split into 3 8-hour chunks. Then you can use the 3PE model, where the pilot will decide your direction and where you're going. The plane will actually do the work to get wherever you need to get. The engineer will ensure you're doing it in the most effective way possible. And lastly, the parachute is there so that should you fail to do something, should you need to do something spontaneous or something unexpected happens, hey, you've got the parachute and you've got a safety net there just in case something goes wrong. Ultimately, all of this will give you like this calmness of mind and just this peace of knowing that you are doing exactly the right thing that you want to do at exactly the right time. And borrowing a quote from Jocko Willink, this system, I believe, allows you to reload, recalibrate, and re-engage on a daily basis. It allows you to treat each day as a microcycle and ensures that you're growing and developing on a daily basis in all facets of your life. That was the summary of the system that I use to schedule my life. If you want more content like this, go check out my podcast where we explore this even deeper. If you enjoy the content, please leave any suggestions or feedback in the comment section below. You can get in touch with me through Instagram or Twitter. And lastly, this is the 3rd video on my channel. If you'd like to stick around, hit that subscribe button. And until next time, remember, an unexamined life is not one worth living. Bye.